Remember when waking up was about starting your day, not about facing strange sensations? You used to get up and just go about your morning activities without that internal pressure that now seems to accompany the first few minutes of the day. There was a time when your morning flowed naturally, without you having to fight against an uneasiness you can't even name. Now it's as if each morning brings with it an invisible baggage, that feeling that something isn't right, even when everything should be fine. It's like trying to make coffee with slightly shaky hands, or feeling like even the most automatic gestures carry an extra weight that wasn't there before. Over the years, I've observed that many older adults unwittingly develop a specific morning habit that acts as a silent trigger for their nervous system. It's something seemingly harmless, but it programs the body into a state of alertness that lasts throughout the day. I've seen how identifying and changing this pattern can completely transform the quality of your mornings. The curious thing is that this habit is usually related to the first gesture we make when waking up, something so automatic that we rarely question its impact on our emotional well-being. If your mornings have been bringing that heavy or alert feeling even before the day begins, comment yes. We are creating a listening space where every answer matters. If you've been feeling that tightness in your chest as soon as you wake up, or a constant tension in your shoulders that doesn't seem to ease, know that these signs are not just aging or something to ignore. They are a warning from your body, a silent way of showing you that something is out of balance inside. Often, this feeling of restlessness and persistent tiredness is not just ordinary tiredness. It is a natural response to a state of internal tension that is growing. When the body and mind are on alert for a long time, even without an apparent reason, this pressure builds up. It is as if the silent worry sticks to you, even affecting your breathing and the way your heart beats. Imagine your body as a very sensitive scale. Small emotional imbalances can cause it to constantly tilt, causing that feeling of discomfort and tiredness that never seems to go away. This state of persistent tension can be triggered by habits or thoughts that, even without realizing it, feed an internal restlessness. For example, waking up already worried about the day or dwelling on old situations can make the nervous system work like a radio that can't tune into a peaceful frequency. This internal alarm is on all the time, without there being any real threat, and this triples stress levels, making your day more difficult, especially after the age of 60. But there is a way to relieve this pressure, even when it seems like everything is out of control. You need to understand what is fueling this tension and act consciously to restore balance between body and mind. It's not about ignoring what you feel, but about recognizing these signs as an invitation to take care of yourself in a more attentive and gentle way. If all of this makes sense to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to follow the next tips. Type 1 in the comments if you've already been through this, or 5 if you still have doubts about what you're feeling. Together, we'll walk towards a lighter and calmer day-to-day life. After recognizing this invisible weight that lives in your chest and the tension that tightens your shoulders, it is important to understand what your body is trying to communicate beyond the usual discomfort. It asks for a break, a simple gesture that can bring a breath of calm and a feeling of inner openness. Now, imagine dedicating 30 seconds to a discrete adjustment that changes the rhythm of your body and mind. A small moment to gently stretch your spine, widening the space between your vertebrae, allowing air to enter more easily and freeing your body from the stiffness that imprisons calm. This movement, even if brief, promotes an immediate lightness, as if an internal window were open to let in fresh air. Professionals with years of experience in mental health care, especially with those over 60, note that this simple act can be a starting point for reducing accumulated overload. Psychologist Maria, who has been treating the elderly for decades, confirms that when performed attentively, this gesture promotes the feeling of being more present and offers a palpable relief from the tension that sets in without asking for permission. Have you tried something similar? Commit right now type "I will take care of myself from now on" in the comments and take that first step towards yourself with kindness and patience. This small adjustment brings comfort that goes beyond the physical. It provides an invisible hug, a softening of internal pressure, giving the body back the control it seemed to have lost. It is as if the breath, which was previously held, could finally expand, bringing with it the feeling of a new beginning. From that moment on, the body becomes a closer partner, ready for new discoveries and care. Imagine that, by opening this inner space, you are pulling back a curtain that lets in the light of dawn, bathing every corner with warmth and renewed hope. This is the door to reconnecting with yourself, an invitation to walk with more lightness. Have you ever noticed that slight change that seems small but brings a sigh of relief? Maybe you've noticed that your mornings no longer start with that internal alarm clock going off, or that your chest doesn't tighten as much when you wake up. Maybe your breathing is a little calmer, as if your body is beginning to accept the break you've finally given it. This faint yet subtle sensation is the first real sign that your mind and body are beginning to respond to the care you've been giving yourself. These small advances are true triumphs, especially because they come from listening carefully and respecting your own rhythm. Progress doesn't have to be immediate or grand to be valuable. Every moment your body relaxes a little more, even if discomfort persists, is an achievement that deserves to be recognized. When you allow yourself this space, you open the way for your nervous system to find balance and for tension to gradually begin to dissolve. It's as if your body is whispering a silent thank you. Thank you for finally listening to me. This message, however gentle, reinforces the partnership between you and your own existence. That bond that may have been forgotten, but that is now growing stronger. The act of stretching and breathing more consciously becomes an intimate and refreshing dialogue, an invitation to walk side by side at your own pace and well-being. Now, I want to hear from you. Press 1 if you have already noticed some improvement in this process, or 5 if you feel like you are just beginning to walk this path. Your participation is very important so that we can grow together on this journey. If this content helped to illuminate your path with more clarity, subscribe to the channel. Each week, we walk side by side, sharing steps that relieve and strengthen. Your subscription helps to spread this message to those who also need this relief and support. Get ready, because in the next step, we will deepen this connection, bringing a simple practice that will intensify this lightness and allow you to feel even more present and balanced. Let's move forward together with hope and care. Often, upon waking, it seems as if the body and mind are still trapped in a restless sleep, even after hours in bed. For those over 60, this feeling of waking up tense, almost as if preparing to face a storm, can become a silent routine. It is common for the simple act of getting out of bed to be accompanied by a tightness in the chest, shortness of breath, and a restlessness that seems to have no explanation. What few realize is that this discomfort can be aggravated by a morning habit that, although it seems harmless, intensifies anxiety in an almost invisible way. The subtle mistake I want to highlight is the rush to immediately connect with the day's news, social networks, or even with the tasks that await us. This abrupt dive into external stimuli, as soon as we wake up, keeps the nervous system on alert, as if the body were called to react to an imminent danger that, in fact, does not exist. Imagine waking up and, instead of feeling your body relaxing and preparing for a new day, your brain fires signals of maximum attention, preparing every muscle and every cell for a threat. This accelerated awakening, with no room for natural deceleration, causes cortisol, the stress hormone, to rise rapidly, disrupting the rhythm of the body and mind. This exaggerated reaction keeps the mind in a cycle of constant vigilance, making it difficult to return to emotional balance. The body then lives as if it were on permanent alert, even during rest. It is common for people to confuse this sensation with the natural wear and tear of aging. without realizing that anxiety may be fueled by this silent pattern. Often, upon waking, they notice a confused mind, a heavy body, and an inexplicable tension in the chest. Small startles at ordinary sounds or movements become more frequent, reinforcing the feeling of vulnerability and tiredness. It is important to recognize that this dynamic is not a personal failure, but a pattern learned and reinforced over the years, without anyone having guided them about the impacts of this immediate connection with the outside world. This invisible trap may be one of the main causes of increased anxiety in those who are already facing changes in the body and mind after the age of 60. What if that restlessness that seems to come out of nowhere in the early hours of the day is actually the result of a bodily response that remains silent, trying to protect you every morning? You wake up feeling unexpectedly light. Your breathing flows more calmly. The weight on your chest seems to have receded. But is this peace permanent or just a break? Often, this temporary silence does not mean that the restlessness has disappeared for good. It is like walking in a quiet forest where the sun shines, but the shadows still hide roots that can trip at any moment. The apparent serenity may be just a pause before the storm blows again. This oscillation occurs because our body and mind are trapped in cycles that repeat themselves. The nervous system, when activated by prolonged stress, alternates between moments of calm and sudden spikes of tension. The breathing pattern, for example, is one of the first to be affected. It may seem normal for a few moments, but soon returns to an accelerated rhythm, reigniting the discomfort. In addition, unprocessed emotional triggers continue to influence this back and forth, making the improvement unstable. It is natural to feel frustrated when faced with these relapses, as if they were a sign of incapacity or regression. However, this belief is a trap that only increases internal pressure. Your body is learning to trust you again, and that takes repetition and patience, not a momentary victory. Each step, however small, strengthens that trust. It's not about eliminating the anxiety all at once, but about building a solid path where it loses its power to control. Sometimes the silence of anxiety isn't the cure. It's just the chance to do things differently before it returns. It's in that space between discomfort and serenity that we find the real opportunity to transform our relationship with stress, opening the door to a more lasting balance. Even on days when there seems to be some relief, many older adults remain trapped in a silent pattern that blocks full recovery. A subtle, almost imperceptible behavior that reinforces internal tension and keeps the body in a constant state of alert. This pattern is the unconscious avoidance of morning discomfort, when the body still signals the need to slow down, but the mind forces haste and urgency. Clinically, this silent resistance prevents the nervous system from reorganizing. When the body's natural rhythm is ignored, the brain interprets the rush as a threat, releasing stress hormones that increase the feeling of tightness and fatigue. It's like trying to clear snow from a sidewalk when the storm hasn't stopped. The effort seems useful, but the layer of ice remains there, firm, blocking progress. Imagine the body as a delicate garden that needs to be watered carefully. If you try to accelerate growth by pulling up plants or forcing the soil, everything wears out and nothing blooms. This accelerated and repeated movement, which seems harmless, ends up depleting internal reserves, increasing the feeling of vulnerability and confusion. It's natural to feel fear or doubt when faced with this routine that seems safe. There may be a silent guilt, as if stopping to take care of yourself were a luxury or a sign of weakness. But this reaction is just a learned defense, a way for the body to try to protect itself from the insecurity that surrounds the unknown. Recognizing this dynamic is the first step to changing the pattern. Now, imagine if this invisible cycle could be broken not by fighting, but by a simple and conscious gesture, capable of renewing the body's confidence. What if, instead of resisting discomfort, you learn to welcome it as a sign that something new is about to happen? This is the delicate tension that prepares us for the next step. Progress is already visible, and the feeling of improvement begins to set in. But it is precisely at this point that many seniors make a subtle mistake that can reignite discomfort and internal tension. This trap is known as premature confidence, an unconscious abandonment of the practices that sustain the serenity achieved. When the body seems calmer, it is common to reduce attention to the messages it still sends. Returning to old morning habits, resuming the routine without pauses, or even ignoring conscious breathing are signs that vigilance is relaxing. It is like coming out of a cold and exposing yourself to the cold wind before the body is completely strengthened. Vulnerability remains even if the symptoms have given way. It is normal to feel frustration or even doubt when a condition that seemed under control manifests itself again. This oscillation does not indicate failure, but rather a predictable phase of the process. The momentary absence of tension does not mean a definitive high, but rather an invitation to intensify daily attention. Your body is opening a small gap. What you choose to do now is decisive for the coming days and weeks. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate an active prevention mindset. View the period without discomfort as an opportunity to strengthen emotional and physical stability, and not as a sign to relax completely. Think of a wound that seems closed. The bandage still protects a sensitive area, preventing any unexpected touch from reopening the wound. This is the moment when the fine line between a temporary improvement and a lasting recovery begins to be drawn. With patience and persistence, it is possible to transform this phase into a true new beginning, building a balance that withstands the stresses of everyday life, especially after the age of 60. If you've made it this far, it's because you've chosen to listen to what many people miss, the subtle signals that your body sends before it starts to scream with discomfort. This journey you've taken is already a victory, a silent transformation that's beginning to create a new inner balance. Think of the pressure you feel as a flashing light, not to scare you, but to draw your attention. This discomfort is like a compass that points to what needs to be reorganized. Even after 60, your body continues to ask for care and respect, showing you the path to serenity through this invitation to awaken. On days when restlessness seems absent, your conscious attitude makes all the difference. Maintaining gentle attention, practicing mindful breathing, and cultivating moments of pause are attitudes that strengthen stability. What you invest in these quiet hours is what shapes the days when discomfort doesn't return. Comment "calm" if you feel ready to embrace this new stage with ease and patience. And write 1 if you have already realized that this restlessness was a lesson for your journey, or 5 if you still feel that it represents a difficult obstacle to overcome. Sometimes a simple gesture, a delicate care, is enough for the entire body to once again trust in its ability to welcome and transform what seemed heavy into lightness. You may have begun this journey with a tight knot in your chest, a silent restlessness that seemed impossible to undo. Now, having come this far, your gaze is warmed by the soft light of understanding and self-care. Your body speaks every day, even when the noise of the world seems to drown it out. Today, you have found the silence necessary to listen to its most subtle messages, those that previously went unnoticed. There are no magic formulas that bring immediate relief. True comfort comes from constant presence, from the tender dialogue between mind and body. What your body has always longed for is partnership, a gentle encounter, attentive listening, and attention that respects each small step. Imagine your body as an ancient tree whose roots intertwine over time, firm and full of stories. Even after intense storms, it remains standing, ready to bloom again. Just as the tree renews itself with each season, your body knows when it is ready to begin again, to transform what seemed heavy into lightness and serenity. Sometimes the silence that once frightened you reveals itself to be an invitation to reconnect, a silent embrace that says, Thank you for finally listening to me. This awakening brings with it a new rhythm, a delicate dance between care and patience, where each moment of attention is a seed planted for the blossoming of a lasting balance. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who also needs to feel this comfort. And if you want to continue cultivating this gentle relationship with your body and mind, sign up. Here, each step is welcomed with respect, and each space is safe to begin again. You are not alone.